Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Value Raters Class Acts in association with Tip TV Sport. Now, as the weeks have gone by, we've previewed races, we've reviewed races, and last week we actually took a look back at Britain at the Bookies, this TV show which is taking sort of punters and the betting industry by storm. We're going to have a look back at that this evening and some comments that were flying around on Twitter and tweeted to Value Rater himself about the show. We're also going to talk briefly about Jack Lander. You may remember a few weeks back we spoke to the young 9-year-old boy who was raising a charity event to raise money for the Injured Jockeys Fund, and we caught back up to see how he got on with his efforts. Later on we'll be giving a full review of that ding-dong battle in the King George between Postponed and Eagle Top. It was a bit of a Bastino Grundy affair, wasn't it? And then in the last part of the show, Value Rater and myself will be picking up the pieces, looking at Goodwood Sussex Stakes as well as the Gordon Stakes tomorrow, the two big ones on the card at the Glorious Meeting, Day 2. And hopefully we can be tipping up some winners there, Value Rater.
Absolutely. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Sorry to ramble on like that, but good to set ourselves up and firstly look at exactly what Jack Lander achieved. Obviously, we spoke to him a few weeks back now, and really an inspired effort, isn't it?
Absolutely. Actually, it's really funny. Jack's, he just tweeted me, he's gone out for dinner with his family and just said, Matt, will it be on YouTube? Because I'm not sure if he'll be back to see it, bless him. So I confirmed it would be. But yeah, a great effort by Jack. I mean, let's just say he's raised nearly under £10,000. I can't remember what the figure was.
Well, he's 9 years old and he's raised 9,440 quid.
Yeah.
All going towards the Injured Jockeys Fund. He walked from Stratford Racecourse to Oaksey House. And I remember I said to you, Matt, how many miles was that again? It was something like 27, wasn't it, Matt? And you said, no, I think it's longer than that. I looked at it, 56 miles. Absolutely tip of the cap to you, Jack Lander.
We've got some pictures as well of Jack.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, as he was walking, somebody sort of went round cheekily with him and his dad with a camera and took some pictures of Jack. We can sort of show those up now just to get an idea of whereabouts he's been. There he is, Jack Lander. So this is right at the start at Stratford Racecourse where they set off for Oaksey House, and 56 miles from here to the next picture. And there he is.
Thank you from Jack. And look at Jack in the garden. This is what he used to prepare with his rucksack on and on the treadmill.
Trekking boots on the treadmill.
Trekking boots. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I remember speaking to him and he said that he suffered some terrible falls on his self-described naughty pony and realised that what jockeys go through. And fair play to him to be so young, mature about it and go and raise this money. Absolutely excellent. I still think you can log on to Jack's Just Giving page. Find him on Twitter. I'm sure Value Rater will tweet the details of the Just Giving page shortly after this show. Anything spared, maybe we could raise the bar, give it one final push and get to that £10,000 mark for all four, of course, the Injured Jockeys Fund. Well, away from Jack Lander's efforts up north across Stratford and to Oaksey House, a lot of people inside their homes, the lazy ones on the sofa last night, were watching Britain at the Bookies. We gave it a bit of a shunning last week, didn't really enjoy the show, but better this week, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe too quick to judge. I thought this was a real nice balance, actually, the show last night, and I think it showed more the reality. Oh, I was saying that obviously there is reality, the bits you've seen with problem gambling, but this was more measured in the different type of punter we have who actually enjoy the sport and having a punt and the approach. I mean, of course, was it Andy and his wife at Doncaster? I mean, how the BBC ever got so lucky in catching him having all those winners in one day. But slightly, you know, part of me thought, well, I wonder how many cameras they had up there with different people to try and catch that. And of course, the lucky owner, who also was on the horse, and the other side, of course, Steve Palmer from the Racing Post. I mean, the first thing I noticed was, I mean, you know, we'd all love a wife like his, you know, who seemed quite, you know, we've all been there, haven't we, with our girlfriends and that. I mean, it is a bit of a hush-hush society with our betting, but, you know, I'd love a wife like Steve. She seems, you know, she seems very supportive, and you know he's a serious player, and you can actually see, you know, and it was nice to see that his surroundings as well was, you know, he has had some success.
And a few comments which came in through Twitter to yourself, Value Rater, relating to both Steve at the Racing Post as well as Andy and his on-course antics. We'll pick those up in just a moment, but I thought it was quite interesting to see, especially from a punter's point of view, so I know you would have as well, but the traders. The traders on the trading floor suddenly picking up the phone, somebody saying, well, you know, have you got odds on? It was Elm Park for the Derby, wasn't it? And they're shouting across, you know, should we go 2-1? But brilliant swing to be able to get the traders on there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just goes to show that everything's an opinion, isn't it? You know, for when you see an odd, there's a team of people behind everything, whatever you do in life, and they're experts, and they're looking at angles, they're looking to try and drag in the money, they're all looking for the same kind of angles as we are as punters, and it was great to see. And what goes familiar with it is that everyone likes to have a bet. I mean, even the editor of the Racing Post couldn't hold a meeting because he was so busy looking what was going on at Ludlow. He had an investment in there and made no apologies for it.
Yeah, Bruce, shame on you, Bruce Millington. We all saw that investment at Ludlow, whilst poor old Steve was trying to put his staking plan across to you, more interested in a few plodders over the fences. But that's how it goes. And what was brilliant about the show, and Jamie Brownlow tweeted us to mark this one up, is that he said it gave a good angle of those that use big stakes, those that use small stakes. He felt it was a lot better than the first week's episode. But of course marked up that, you know, you had Steve from the Racing Post who had his big golf bets, and that was one way of doing it. And then you had Andy who went in there and he said he won't bet any more than £5 a race. But what it was all about, whether you take A or B there, it was about beating the bookie. Now that's exactly what we're going to try and do on this show as well. But can you beat the bookie?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course you can beat the bookie. I mean, for someone like Andy, who obviously goes racing with his wife, you know, he's obviously very knowledgeable, goes and he'll get himself by having his little bet. Someone like Steve, who we've seen at the Racing Post, again, very knowledgeable. He's clearly, I do think with sports betting, as in golf and darts and various other sport, time-wise, it's not so time-consuming as horse racing. You only need your eyes. You can watch a darts match, a football match, and you can get a feel. With racing, there is a lot of form work, a lot of analysing to go on. So from a time point of view, I can understand why other people do bet on those sort of sports. But
So it's arguably more, it's sort of more quantifiable, those sort of sports. And when you come to something like racing and all the conditions in place, you've got to spend a little bit more time in order to sort of really pin down how exactly you're going to beat the bookie. Well, in essence, that's exactly why it's worth watching Value Rater on these shows. Just to give a quick, before we dive into the King George review, just to give a quick idea to those that haven't watched at home before, exactly how you try and get ahead of the bookie.
Yeah, so I've been a form analyst now, I say professionally, I guess now for getting on best part of 10 years. And basically my approach is for high class racing of a certain grade. It's normally races we'll be talking about tonight, which are group in class. One, because there's a lot of prize money, there's the horses of a certain ability, and I have my own private handicap system which differs enormously from the official handicapper, and I allot marks, and I like to think I'm a little bit ahead of the game and can predict a horse's future a long time before necessarily the general public stroke handicapper picks up. And I think that's gone to prove over the last few weeks that we've actually done that, is actually pinpoint horses and form going forward. That is, you know, has worked out particularly well. So it's all about just really me looking, you know, it's like an illness for me. Well, it is. I mean, it's a way of life that I love my racing, and I love the analysis behind it, and you know, and the working out. So you can't make money from racing. You've got to have, you know, as we've seen on the show last night, there's different ways of doing it. Some people like to bet all the time. Some people like to be more disciplined. And my only advice, and it was something that Steve Mellish said to me years ago, and he said, Matt, he said, the way you bet is got to be what your personality is like. If you're someone who needs to bet every race, then bet every race. If you're someone that can't go through those kind of ups and downs, you know, perhaps you're a person who needs one or two bets. And he's absolutely right. And as I've got older, I found that I'm having less bets, and perhaps when I was a little bit younger, I was there trying to, you know, have more bets and necessarily looking for things. But I more enjoy the sport visually. I can watch racing without having a bet, and I hope I can share some of my skills over the weeks here.
Well, I suppose typically we'll probably come out of this evening's show with a selection in the Sussex Stakes and a selection in the Gordon Stakes, exactly what it looks as though Value Rater is going to put forward to you. That's going to come towards the end of the show. Before that, we got a few minutes to spend on the King George. Now, it was a real ding-dong affair, Matt. It was 40 years on since the Grundy Bustino, and well, it didn't disappoint with Eagle Top and Postponed. However, many were disappointed that, of course, Golden Horn wasn't in the picture. Obviously withdrew because of the ground, but there's many in the race that I didn't think would suit the ground either, but were left in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all said it. You know, Golden Horn has not got an action that suited soft, and I mean, John Gosden did say that if it was run on the straight course, he didn't believe it was soft there. He said it was probably good to soft, and as he explained, that Swinley Bottom is called that for a reason, is that it was very, very soft, and he thought it was a wrong at this stage of the horse's career. Now, Mr. Gosden is one certain trainer I respect most, and if he, you know, he's the trainer, he would have spoke to the owners. You know, what is the point of doing that? It was disappointing, but I did think, you know, the way it was like the race had ended. Yeah. You know, and I thought, well, it's not the end of the world. You know, we're going to see this horse again. We still got a good horse race, and I just thought that it just took it off the race a little bit with all the hype, or not say hype, but all the talk about Golden Horn wasn't running. But after all, we want to see horses at their best.
Yeah, and I think the horses that obviously don't mind the mud flying at all, if we have a look at you know, the Value Rater ratings card here, the way that they finished, if you look at 5, 4 and 3 on the card, okay, Clever Cookie, Madame Chang, Romsdale, no doubt they don't mind getting their toe in the ground. But still managed to finish behind Postponed and Eagle Top. Does that really show you exactly the class difference in this race between the top two and the rest?
I think so, Tom. I think it is class. I mean, let's just go through this graphic for perhaps people that don't watch, or new people watching, is that on the left-hand side we've got the horse obviously in order. These are their finishing positions, the weight they were carrying. Now, the OR is the official handicapper. It's the BHA's official handicapper. This was before the race, and the VR, which is me, Value Rater, and my ratings, how I've judged the performance after the race. Now, Postponed, an official mark of 118. I got Postponed run to 125, which is an improvement, obviously, on last time in that muddling affair at behind Snows in the Hardwick. And I did think I said a couple of weeks ago that I thought that horse maybe best be forgiven to the way things won. Eagle Top, mark of 125. This is the best mark I've given Eagle Top. I do think that the horse, I mean, there's nothing between them. You know, if you ran that race again, who's not to say that Eagle Top would have won ahead? I think there's not a lot between them. I think what this race has shown is that the importance for both Postpone and Eagle Top needing a real good test at the 1.5 miles.
Okay, this is my next question then, I suppose, is for all those viewers that, of course, back Snow Sky would have been disappointed to see him down in 6th. I suppose there's one of two answers for the performance. One, was he flattered by giving an early lead in the Hardwick Stakes, which he, of course, went on to run, or to win, sorry, or secondly, was it very much the ground that got the better of Snow Sky on the day? Which of those excuses would you imagine Sir Michael Stout and Pat Smullen to use?
Maybe a bit of both. Without doubt, for me, he's run a stone under what he did in that race. I mean, the mark I've gave him here, 115, the official handicap in 124. I think I rated him 129 when we were speaking last week. He didn't like the ground in the closing stages, but as I always say, in the early part of the race, he travelled up on the ground. It's not until the horses come off the bridle and have to do something, you really find out if they like the ground. And he didn't look like that. But not only that, he was beaten too far to start saying, well, it was just the ground. I think Sir Michael Stout is, you know, since really Ascot, he had a bad Ascot, didn't he, apart from Snow Sky actually winning that week. And there's just, for me, you know, one thing I've learnt from back in Snow Sky there was I think I'll be leaving Mr. Stout's horses alone for the rest of the season. I
just look at this race, and really to wrap it up, to give a viewer the idea of exactly how good you think this was for a King George. I mean, okay, yeah, Golden Horn wasn't in it, but in Golden Horn's absence, we've got, in some people's eyes and in the critics' eyes, Group 2 horse, not a Group 1 horse, Group 2 filly. 1 mile 6, sorry, I'm going down the list. No, number 5 on your card, viewers at home, Clever Cookie. This is a 1 mile 6, staying in the mud. Snow Sky, unproven, not sure. Dylan Mouth coming over from Italy. Where is the Group 1 performer, the top class Group 1 performer in this field?
OK, I think Postponed, I mean, one thing to take from this form is if we look back at Postpone's better run this year, it was actually where Alcazine won, didn't it, in Ireland, and Postponed was second, and Great Gatsby obviously was in third, and the Great Gatsby went on obviously to really frank the form, even though finishing second at Group 1 level. Eagle Top, as I said, has improved, I think, for the staying.
It's quite lightly raced, to be fair. So maybe going up to Group 1, just because it hasn't proven Group 1 form before, doesn't mean it's necessarily a Group 1 horse. But
this is Group 1 form. It wouldn't be classic form, to put it in a nutshell. When we were talking about last week, you know, classic winners of the Derby and that, I mean, we said not Eagle Top. I keep on calling it Eagle and Top. Golden Horn, like 133. You can see here, I'm saying basically that is £8 beneath that kind of performance. I've just been through a couple of the other ones going forward. Eagle Top, I think it's important to have soft ground, not just because of the underfoot condition, but for the stamina test. He almost looks like that horse wants a little bit further than a mile and a half. He always seems to come staying on late. I thought he seed out this really well. I don't think it was a case of, he definitely headed to Postponed. It wasn't a case of he was folding. I just think Postponed was very brave on the rail and battled back. Romsdale in third. He seems to be improving bit by bit as the season goes on. Of course, was placed in the St. Ledger. Clever Cookie just couldn't go the pace, plodded on, and Snow Sky very, very disappointing. So, in all, it's Group 1 level. It was on soft ground. These are my ratings on soft ground. It'd be, you know, that'd be completely different should we have better conditions.
Yeah, in all, I feel like we've really found 2 possible Group 1 horses and not too much in behind. But look out for Madame Chang going forward. She goes in the Yorkshire Oaks coming up in just a couple of weeks' time. Having only run twice this season, of course, loves a bit of mud flying. She may well still get that up in York in a couple of weeks. Madame Chang, David Simcock must still have high hopes for her, and with a bad crop of 3-year-old fillies, as of course we've explained before, Matt. Keep an eye on Madame Chang for those Yorkshire Oaks. When you come back, that's the form unravelled from, of course, Ascot's King George. Now, going forward, there's a small matter of Glorious Goodwood on our hands, and it will be the Sussex Stakes and a preview of the Gordon Stakes after the break.